As I felt the refreshing wind wrap around my body, I recalled the sentence that appeared in Ways of Survival. Hansing was summoning avatars when she noticed the skill I was going to use. What? I thought you didn't learn this. Step back. Way of the wind. There's a gale in the right hand and a storm in the left hand. The way of the wind will be opened when the straight and curved lines meet. The sentence that I couldn't understand became a reality the moment I felt the wind at my toes. Myeongil-sang's fist suddenly approached my nose. The attack that should have hit was meaningless. The overwhelming power of this skill filled my lacking stats. This was the secret technique of the Immutar. Myeongil-sang's eyes shone. Huh? He sped up. I didn't answer as I focused on enlightenment. From now on, it was a fight against time. The remaining time for Bookmark was 30 minutes. I understand. This is a skill of those wolves. Myeongil-sang laughed at me. Did you receive a great enlightenment that allowed you to use this shitty skill? Did you know? I killed the king of those guys with my own hands. Of course I knew. I remembered the creatures of Kronos who died. Prince Lycaon of the Immutar, Parasite Queen Antinous. The fate of those who survived their destroyed world was to be used in the scenarios unfolding on another planet. I would be in the same situation as them if Earth was destroyed. A medium black fire cannon shot from Myeongil-sang's right hand. One wind will meet another wind to form yin and yang. Once again, one wind will meet another wind to form the principles of the negative and positive. I use all my imagination to put these words into images. Hot and cold wind swirled in front of me, and the direction of the wind started to twist. The black fire was deflected once it hit the wind, and energy spread in every direction. All ether attacks were propagated through a medium. If the root of the medium was dispersed, the attack would have no choice but to go back. Myeongil-sang looked surprised. Pretty good. You must have some talent. Myeongil-sang once again started to flee. The character, Myeongil-sang, has used Blink level 4. It was another blink. However, it wasn't hard for me to pursue him. Once I closed my eyes and concentrated on the wind, I could read everything around me. I ran along the street at a speed that matched Yu Jonguk's Red Phoenix Shumpo and found Myeongil-sang. He was grabbing people randomly and asking them questions. I kicked off the steel frame of a building and flew towards him. It was a blow that would crush bone, but he stood. The 24th seal of the returnee, Myeongil-sang, has been released. His next seal was released by a hair's breadth. It was ticklish. Myeongil-sang spoke in a playful manner. He believed that he would win anyway. His wounds were healed by the seal being released, and as time went by, more of my magic power was being consumed. Try to stop me! In fact, I couldn't kill him if I used Way of the Wind as a buff skill. If this alone could defeat the disaster of questions, Kronos wouldn't have perished in the first place. I had to do it. The problem was, someone needed to buy time for me to use this technique. Huh? Something suddenly fell from the sky diagonal to me. It looked like a descending hawk as it pierced through the air towards Myeongil-sang. There was a terrible explosion and a small crater appeared. A familiar person was seen where Myeongil-sang was lying on the ground. I looked at the man with a wide mouth and muttered, Yu Jonguk? Didn't this bastard say he would take 2 days to recover? I looked at the approaching Yu Jonguk and reflexively stepped back. Surely he wasn't planning to hit me right now. However, Yu Jonguk stopped a few steps in front of me and turned around. Get started. Yu Jonguk stood before me as if he knew what I was trying to do. I'll block him. Hansung muttered on my behalf from where she was lying nearby. Shit. As expected from the protagonist. But unlike her words, Yu Jonguk still appeared to be in a dangerous state. His body was still unsteady, and the blood vessels on his body were still bulging. Meanwhile, Myeongil-sang stood in front of the crater, laughing while coughing up blood. It's a bit annoying. He wasn't badly damaged despite the impact. It was unbelievable that he was on the weak side of the returnees who would appear. Myeongil-sang ran forward, and Yu Jonguk met him. Then I invoked Way of the Wind. 4 winds meet and form a defense, then another 4 winds are added, making it the 8 trigrams. Therefore wind is everywhere, yet exists nowhere. It was my turn to use the verse that gave Lycaon enlightenment. The mysterious air wall in the shape of an octagon started to swirl. It was a small dome of space. The tight seal choked me. From now on, it was a fight against time. Yu Jonguk flew back from a blow while Myeongil-sang's expression hardened. He finally realized this wasn't a game. What? The next moment, all the air in the dome was removed. My ears became blocked, and all sound disappeared. The wind blew terribly, but the dome was calm as the eye of a storm. Myeongil-sang opened his mouth. He moved his mouth several times, but his voice wasn't heard. Sound wasn't possible because there was no medium. He was in a complete vacuum. Due to the difference in air pressure, the air in my lungs momentarily escaped. I quickly sucked it back in. Outside the dome, Hansung was shouting something. Exclusive skill, Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint Stage 2 has been activated. What is this? I could hear Myeongil-sang's thoughts. Why don't I have a voice? Magic? Myeongil-sang was shouting with confusion. It was natural. All returnees had a penalty. This was especially true for returnees, who could quickly recover their original strength under certain conditions. The penalty of the disaster questions is activated. The power of the returnee Myeongil-sang has been weakened. The 24th seal of the returnee Myeongil-sang has been locked. What? No! They had a condition of being weakened as easily as they were strengthened. The 23rd seal of the returnee Myeongil-sang has been locked. Why did the disaster questions keep asking questions? It was simple. His abilities would be weakened if he didn't ask questions. Shit! Release this! Quickly release it! His fist hit the wall of air many times, but the wall didn't break easily. In a space without a medium, the black flames didn't burn. The 22nd seal of the returnee Myeongil-sang has been locked. A vacuum prison that could be made using Way of the Wind. This was the optimal strategy against the disaster questions that I knew. Ah! Myeongil-sang belatedly rushed towards me. He thought that the vacuum prison would be broken if I died, but that wasn't the case. This was a place I made. I used Way of the Wind to avoid his attack and quickly reduced the area of the prison. Once the wall shrank, I made a narrow passage and escaped outside the dome with Yu Jong-ok. Now, Myeongil-sang was the only one left inside the dome. You jerk! A returnee wasn't a returnee for nothing. The dome cracked a little under his power. I raised my hand and the wind filled in the weak spot. Then the size of the dome started to shrink rapidly. Blood flowed from my nose due to the excessive concentration. My ultimate goal was to limit the vacuum prison to his body. However, it wasn't easy to control. Shit. Yu Jong had managed it easily. Why was this so difficult? Yu Jong's voice was heard. Don't try to control it. You must lead the wind. At that moment, I received enlightenment. Maybe it was my mistake to make a wall. The important thing was to remove the medium around his body. I'm choking! Myeongil-sang frantically scratched his neck, causing himself to bleed. Pretty good. Although you still aren't very talented. Yu Jong's voice was heard once again. Then Myeongil-sang attempted his last hurrah. The character, Myeongil-sang, has used Great Blackfire Cannon Level 3. Myeongil-sang's right arm was surrounded by dark flames. To my surprise, the great flames shot through the dome of wind. I fell down while protecting Yu Jong's body. A dull impact filled my head. Myeongil-sang seemed to be squeezing out his remaining magic power as the black fire cannon continued. But the wind wasn't still. Once the black fire cannon was fired through the dome, wind instantly filled up the spot again. The last hurrah didn't change anything. The problem was the people dying from the black flames. Yu Jong saw my face and said, "Don't think about it. They wouldn't care if you died." There are people like that. But not everyone was like that. I got up and confronted the black flames. The black flames were scattered and twisted by the power of a strongly rotating dome. A terrible pain followed. It was because I intercepted the majority of the black flames. The black flames burned my skin, and the sensation of my bones faded little by little. I could do it. He wasn't strong right now. At this moment, I reached an area beyond my limits. As my senses became faint, my body was like the wind. A constellation who loves effort enjoys your pain. A touch of talent sleeping in your soul has blossomed. I controlled the vacuum prism with my left hand, while moving the wind with my right hand to dissipate the energy of the black flames. In a complete trance, I tasted new heights and Way of the Wind. The wind at my fingertips was creating a landscape I had never known before. The thickness of the exclusive skill Fourth Wall has temporarily thinned. It was a strange feeling. This is how the character saw the world. No matter how hard I read the text, I didn't know what to feel. I felt that a part of the narrative, which I could never fully reach, was now completely understood. Reading was different from understanding. Maybe I still didn't understand 1% of this world yet. Soon afterwards, I felt the power of Myeongil-sang's black flames weaken. Shit! Scum! Die! Die! The momentum of the black flames was rapidly declining. In addition, my magic power was still full. It was a strange feeling. Even if I was in a trance, how could I have this much magic power left? Behind me, Yu Jong-ok said, "I'll kill you." Somehow I had absorbed Yu Jong-ok's magic power. Then after a while, Myeongil-sang's attack ceased. All seals of the returnee Myung-Sang have been locked. Yu Jong and I looked at each other. The exclusive skill Weigh the Wind level 8 has been released. The fear-stricken Myung-Sang stared at us. I threw unbroken faith towards the man who was gasping for air and trying to run away. He fell down with a blade in his back. He wouldn't be able to escape with Blink anymore. I ran over and grabbed his neck. It's really frustrating not being able to speak. Have your questions finished? I'll kill you if you ask me a question right now. Don't ask anything. Returnees. The most arrogant and brutal existences in ways of survival. Among the returnees, Myung-Sang was one of the worst. Now I don't want to hear one sound from you. Myung-Sang looked at me like it was unfair. I hit him again and again until that fear was completely crushed. The beaten-up Myung-Sang barely managed to say, "It can't be like this." I looked at this guy and remembered when he was a warrior. I'm a warrior? I'm a real warrior? Really? The 17-year-old high school student, Myung-Sang, the innocent boy who was chosen as a warrior to save the world and fell onto Kronos. He obviously didn't want to become like this. He didn't want to be a murderer that wiped out life on a continent, but he did so. It is you who chose to become a disaster. Now you couldn't change that fact. Your understanding of the character Myung-Sang has increased. Myung-Sang's face distorted. I'm obviously protagonist. This world. The man who wanted to become a protagonist, but failed in the end. The real protagonist soon approached and slammed a blade into his head. I looked into the eyes of the man killed by Yu Jong-uk. It was a futile death for the disaster that destroyed a world. You have won against a returnee for the first time in this scenario. Contributor, Kim Dokja, Yu Jong-uk. You've earned 40,000 coins as an achievement reward. A new item will be added to your story. The narrative, person who poses the miracle, has been added. You have obtained the possibility of a new stigma.